When I was when I first started skateboarding, when I was very young, I was probably influenced by the standards. Tony Hawk was an influence on me. Chris Miller, Alan Losey, those are the, Rob Ross, all these names, the bigger names when I was very young. Anything I could look at in the magazine, I was influenced by. I think just, sitting in a parking lot waiting for Del Mar to open. There was a couple curbs and stuff, and you could do the same tricks you could do on VERT. Obviously, it's not the same, but you can kind of mimic it. I think just generically and naturally that sort of thing happened. I think out of necessity. In Vista, the skateboard park in Vista closed in 1980, so there was no park, and you'd have to go to Del Mar, I think, and that was a long bus ride, and it just took a while. So out of necessity, I think we just started skating whatever we could. Like all people, we skated a lot of ditches and stuff, and we would do VERT tricks on the street, put a curb on top and pretend it was the coping in the keyhole. And I think from there we just started, taking that and then taking it to flat, finding different ways of going about it. And I think just the different just to learn how to ollie on like a street skateboarder was probably what really changed things around. It wasn't that you just kind of pressure ollied on a VERT ramp. You actually smacked your tail and you got some lift. I'd say with VERT tricks certainly at first. That's what I would think. I think it wasn't until sometime later that the freestyle part of all of it, because I was actually young enough or old enough or whatever to see Rodney Mullen do demos and do contests in the reservoir at Del Mar, and he would do a lot of those tricks, 360 kickflips, and it was cool. But it wasn't in the same mindset. I've had conversations with Jason Lee when he would hang out with Rodney, and they'd skate, and he would by osmosis pick up on what Rodney was doing, and Rodney, I think, was probably doing the same thing. He was tending to probably actually, instead of just staying still, actually push and kind of go towards more like street, and street skaters are kind of going more towards freestyle, I think, and kind of picking up on each other's better parts of what they do. And I think it wasn't short after that it really, even though I'd seen a kickflip 6 years earlier, it wasn't until hauling ass down the road and someone did it over something where you're like, that's the greatest thing ever. Mike Tranowski and Tony Madison started the company, and Tony Mac was at that camp, and he did absolutely had his hand in it and was on it. But Mike was the guy that, like, I think most of the guys on the team, nothing too bad against Tony, but most of the guys I think kind of just naturally magnetized to Mike, Mike was just, he lived and breathed it to the point of he was on the phone to me every 5 seconds about this trick, that, do that. He really had it. So I think people were magnetized going, to Mike and that vibe, and there was a change in skateboarding. Rocco came out, and there was World Industries, and all of a sudden, the stuff that you thought about in the middle of the night about how cool it would be to have a certain board and a certain thickness and a cool looking rail instead of the cheese ball ones that were out, he did all that. The screws looked good. The bolts weren't hanging out 4 feet. He really did that to a really high degree. And anybody who wasn't on World Industries, even if they don't admit it, was probably jealous because that shit looked fucking good. And we would always go, Mike, dude, our board's like, we had this thing called Hell Concave, and it was a special concave, and it was good on your feet, and it kept the board on your feet for big airs and ollies and stuff. But their boards were relatively flat, looked really good, and they looked good. It just looked good, and we just told me, like, Mike, we want to get some of that action going. And I think it was that was the beginning of us kind of wanting to get more. And then at some point there was a riff. Mike's like, we're just going to kind of go in our own ways. I talked to Steve Rocco, and we're going to kind of do something over there, and that was kind of going to fix that gap. We were going to get our boards made through World Industries, and we'd have that luxury of kind of having our factory out of their factory. And Mike and Tony kind of separated their ways, and then it is what it is. People kind of was forced in a position to kind of choose. And I think, when Mike first came to me, came to Danny, obviously, and the other main guys, and then from the main guys, Mike was straight up. It's like, here's our team. you know, of whatever, 4 or 5 guys, anybody else, and we sat in a room and talked about the Dick and Balls logo and everything else. I remember it was like yesterday. We just were like, okay, that looks pretty good, and we took it from there.